Okay, so it is right now, and still in the aura of Yom Ha'atzmaut, and I do believe that the piece we have in Rabbi Nachman today is somewhat connected to that. That Yom Ha'atzmaut is every year is a bit of a political day, and like some people, it happens to bother me, but there's people that they don't celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut because they don't like the government and because of different things that the government did that I don't agree with that. So, like I know, like yeshivas that completely Zionist yeshivas. It's not like they're anti-Zionist. Anti-Zionist is like it's a whole other discussion. But like because I'm left wing, I don't believe in this, or the opposite, or because I'm too right wing, so I don't believe in what they do. So that's why I don't celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. And to me, this is very, very troublesome. The concept of because I don't agree with what you do, therefore I'm going to not believe in the concept of having a country. And certainly the whole question of Zionism versus anti-Zionism makes things political. So that like a lot of people, it's like they're just like they don't talk about it, and they just like to stay out. And it's a thing that makes people uncomfortable, like having political discussions. And the truth is that this is really one of the most basic questions in the Jewish people and the Jewish as a nation is that what can we do to be one? Okay, can we be one? Can we be one? And we know that one of the most dangerous things in the Jewish nation is our being separate, is our being divided, and so the greatest threat we ever had in Jewish history was in the story of Purim, that started with Haman wanted to destroy the people. And how did he destroy the people? What was his first thing that he went to try to attack us? He said, "Yeshna am mefoirad ben ha'amim," that we are divided, and that's why the tikkun, that's why the rectification of the story of Purim was Lech Kenais Es Kol Yehudim, that Esther requests to gather everybody together. Because as much as we are divided, as much as we're separate, that is when we are. It's possible for us to get attacked. And as much as we're together, so then we have strength in our unity. So Haman, that he wanted to destroy us through our divisiveness, through our division. So he was obviously from the descendants of Amalek, and so I once heard a word from Reb Aaron Roth, known as Reb Arla. He started the Sichot HaRan Chassidus. That he said in Yiddish that Amalek is gematria politik. That if it's in Yiddish spelling, so politik is spelled with an aleph, and it's 240. It's exactly. In modern Hebrew, so politik is spelled with a vav, but politika, the way we pronounce it, the way we spell it, is the gematria as Amaleki. So it still works out. It's 250. So
politicians are Amalek.
So exactly. So the concept of politics. What was he saying? What was he saying that the politics is Amalek? That politics is about divisiveness. The politics is all about let's fight. It's like, and we're talking like I don't like to talk about there was politics. They broke off because there was politics. He got fired because there was politics. He had to leave because there was politics. Politics. We use the word politics as a code word for like the disagreements that like things that just don't work together. And that's if anybody that ever looked at like a video from the Knesset, so like you see that this is just like everybody's just screaming at each other and just walking out at each other, and there are people talking at each other, nobody talking with one another, and so we certainly see that Amalek, that politica is Amalek. That it's absolutely that this Haman energy, this Haman Amalek energy of divisiveness, which is really what's pulling us together. So, and the truth is that the energy of divisiveness is really ingrained in who we are, because one of the like the most basic thing about being Jewish is that we like to disagree. The word for disagreement in Hebrew is machloket. I like to say that for a lot of people it's like the first Hebrew word that they ever learn, because like if you come to yeshiva and you ask a rabbi what do you do about this? And so the answer is always the same. It's machlakat, and there's not much disagreements about everything. There's a joke that the rabbi was speaking, and he says, yeah, you know what they say, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, and like the guy said, Rabbi, I heard it's 3 Jews, 4 opinions. And so we can't agree on anything, and it's mamish built in. And I think I've shared before that there's a story with Chaim Soloveitchik that once there was a maskil that came before Reb Chaim, and he was complaining to him that like, how am I supposed to listen to rabbis? If you rabbis, you can't agree on anything. You can't agree on anything. And he was bringing out this point, and Reb Chaim thought for a moment, and he said, it's not true. It's not true that there's more things in Shas that are agreed upon than things that are disagreed upon. And that's something amazing that he was able to realize that in all of that it's really all the disagreements are actually like taken out of proportion. Like we always hear about machlekes, and we forget about the fact that we take for granted that there's so many things that are not machlekes. There's so many things that are actually simple, they're actually agreed upon, and actually straightforward. So, nevertheless, machlekes is certainly very prevalent in our culture. It's very prevalent in our Torah. It's very prevalent in our conversations. And there's no element of life that the Jews have machleket. I once heard an idea that Judaism, the Torah are the ones that put shalom as a value. Before the Torah, there was no such value as shalom. There was power, and there was conquering, and there was the concept of peace. The concept that everybody should just be happy, just be able to live next to one another with friendship. That's a concept that the Torah invents, it creates. So somebody once said, I imagine it was a joke, that there's a Gemara that says that there was one country that it was very, very hot, and so they worshipped the sea, and there was another another place that was very, very, very cold, and they worshipped fire, and so they had their fire god and they had their water god, and so explain that really, like what the Gemara is trying to explain is that what the Gemara is trying to express is that everybody idolizes what's the opposite of what they are. So if you're in a place that's very hot, so then you're going to idolize water, and if you're a place that's very cold, then you're going to be idolizing fire. And so Jews, because we're so ingrained that machlekes, so we idolize shalom. We idolize peace. Like that's where it comes from. Because it's so the opposite. Of it. So I would like to. That's only a joke. And obviously we do believe in peace, and the fact that we brought peace into the discussion, onto the table. So it means because we see the value in peace, and we see how important it is, and so this is really the discussion of what Rabbi Nachman is speaking about in this piece. We're up to Torah Ayin Zayin in 77, and he talks about 77 is 1/10 of 770 for any Chabadnikim. So he says, Kol ha'olam malei machlekes, that the whole world is full of machlekes. Hen bein umas ha'olam, that there's machleksim, there's disagreements between different kings, between different nations, v'chein b'chol ir v'ir, between different cities, v'chein b'chol bayis u'bayis, and between houses, ben hashchenim, between neighbors, ben kol echad im ishtoi, u'bnei beisa, and you have there's disagreements and fights within one house. U'mashersav u'banav, and you have fights with your workers and fights with your children. Ve'emi sheyasim al liba tachtish sheb'chol yom v'yom hadam eis, ki hayom she'avar lo yeh oid, v'chol yom hu miskarav l'misa. And people don't realize, like, first of all, he has a horrible critique on this. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're always fighting. Everybody's always fighting. What are you doing? You don't realize that the day that was here today is never going to come back. Whatever you wasted your day with fighting, so then you missed a day. And You're just getting closer to your death every day, and like you're wasting your stuff. You're wasting your energy on this pettiness. Somebody I heard recently from Rabbi Y. Jacobson that he said that how come children it's very easy for them to forgive. Like you hurt them, you hurt a kid, and he says, I hate you, like I wish I had a different Abba. I wish I and then you give him a hug and like everything's good. But like adults like you say one thing that like upsets them, and you forget to invite them to something, or they assume that you didn't answer their call, and they're like 25 years we're not speaking, and tell them, and you tell them like what, just make up with this guy. No. He should come to me, and there's people, and so what's the difference between a child and an adult? So he said it's very simple, that a child prefers to be happy over being right, and an adult prefers being right over being happy, and the children, so like they're just happy. It's like they know that if I want to be happy, I need to just forgive and forget, move on. And the adult, so he needs to be right, and it's at the expense of being happy. So he's going to be miserable his whole life. His mom is going to have a horrible life because he's programmed, like because of his quote unquote maturity, that he needs to be right, even though it's going to take away his happiness. So that this is something we need to look to children, to be able to be inspired by the children, to understand how the being happy is much more important. It's actually much more important than being right. So he's saying that this is a horrible thing. The people allow their disagreements to just waste their life and waste their energy, and the life is just slipping away because of these stupid fights. And he says, that was just an aside. That the fights you have inside your house, that is mamish the same fights, the same wars that are going on between different kings and between different nations. And he says that there's different midos, that every nation personifies a different midah, and when the different nations are fighting with one another, so then that's actually the different midos which are fighting with each other. And so just like in a macro, so you have that this nation represents this midah, and this represents this midah. So in the micro, so in the family, so you have the same midos. So like this is in every family you have the here's the Russia, and here's the Ukraine, and here's the Israel, and here's the Hamas, and now like some rabbis they claim to know, like they say like they know that like, oh, this is Paras, and this is Mada, and this is Amalek, and this is this, and this is like, and this is Chesed, this is Gvur, and like I know, and the reason why Iran says like this is because really he's like this, and like okay, like if you really know things like that, so like how come you can't help me win the lottery? Like how come you can't? How come you can't get along with your neighbors? You know? And so, but it's really irrelevant. I don't think it's important to know. I think it's silly to claim that you know, and I think it's irrelevant. Rabbi Nachman is saying an objective truth that the world is run by spiritual energies, and that being said, so of course there's different midos which are being personified by different nations, and it's really irrelevant which one it precisely is. And the truth is that the source of everything is in the pure energies themselves. Meaning that we say in Kaddish, I don't know if it's a pasuk, it could be it's a pasuk. It says Oseh Shalom b'Maramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. So what does it mean? What does it mean that Hashem is Oseh Shalom b'Maramav? That Hashem makes peace in his heights, in the heavens. What's that peace that Hashem has to make in the heavens? Who's fighting in the heavens? So like in Greek mythology, they had lots of wars going on in the heavens. But what's actually going on in the heavens? So the Mepharshim say that he's making peace between the different midos, because he has midas of chesed, that wants to say yes, and he has midas hagvura that wants to say no, and so the midas hachesed, the midas hagvura. So they're having a cosmic battle of who's going to win. Is it going to be yes or is it going to be no? And this is just like the Midrash tells us that before Hashem created the world, so there was different angels, different energies. One was saying that Hashem should create man, one was saying that Hashem should not create man, and so there's different energies sourced in the different midos, and that these midos, these energies, are actually fighting with one another, and this is the source of this lack of balance, this lack of peace that trickles down. That this midah comes to this nation, this comes to this nation, this midah comes to this person in the house, and this person comes to this person in the house, and it's all personifications, all expressions of the very same thing. And so this is very connected to what we spoke about just the other day, just on Sunday. So we're speaking about the midah of Tiferet. First verse Eimer, that this is today's the last day of Tiferet, of the sphere of Tiferet. And Tiferet, we said, is about balance, because Tiferet is the torso, which is balancing between the right and the left, and this is the ability of holding both at once, and the ability to say that I'm not going to be just a chesed person, and at the same time I'm not going to be just a gevurah person. That I'm going to be a both person. I'm going to know when I need to say yes and when I need to say no, which is much more difficult, because it's much easier to just be a yes person or just to just be a no person, because you don't need to think. I go by the rules, and so whenever I need to answer an answer, I just look at the rules, and the other person says, yeah, I just do whatever I want to do, and I just ask myself what I want to do. And so both of those are going to bring dissection. So what's more complicated? What's more complicated is that I respect the rules. I realize that there needs to be exceptions to the rules, but when exactly are you going to say exceptions, and to what extent are you going to say exceptions? That's hard. That's hard. And that's Tiferet. Tiferet, that's beauty. As we said, Tiferet is about beauty, because Tiferet is that the true beauty is the understanding that there is a balance between the rules and not the rules, between the saying yes and the saying no. And this is really what Tiferes is all about. So it's between this piece, between the Oseh Shalom b'Mamav, is what Tiferes is all about. And so this is, so this is this expression of the midos, of these energies in the world. So Rabbi Nachman continues that ואפילו אם אחד אינו רוצה לאהוב ורוצה להישאר בהשקפה ושווה, עם כל זה הוא מוכרח. And he says there's another similarity that just like sometimes with wars, so you have one nation that they actually want it to be neutral, but they get sucked into the fight. They get sucked into the war against the war. So it's the same thing with family feuds. Sometimes like somebody wanted to stay on the side, but like against their will, they got sucked into this. They got sucked into this machlekes. So a person is a small world. He has a miniature world. He has everything inside of him. And certainly a family is in the family system, so everybody has all of these different midos. Now he says the crazy, interesting point. A person could be that he's alone in the forest. He could go crazy. He could become insane. Why does he become insane? Because he's all by himself. And because he's all by himself, so now all of the different energies are inside of him, which is really the energies of all of the different nations of the world. So all the different energies are starting with one another and fighting with one another. So he's constantly changing the kind of energy that he's feeling, the kind of opinions that he's feeling. That the way that these midos are expressing themselves in heavens, so that is the way that they're going to express themselves down here. And so because you're all by yourself, so everything is being expressed, so you're just going to become completely schizophrenic. Yeah, and it's going to really mess with your sanity. But he explains, so this is why you need to be part of civilization. But when you're with other people, this is the critical word, that the milchama, the disagreements, the fight can spread out. What does it mean? So then the different opinions, the different energies, they can spread out between the different people or the different nations or the different neighbors, and therefore a person is not going to go crazy because he is able to hold his ground. Okay, so this is a very, very fascinating observation about insanity, about psychosis. That part of the problem one of the things that can bring psychosis is the person is troubled by all of the complexity of reality, and so because he's all by himself, so all of the different complexities are contradicting themselves and not allowing him to have any clarity about anything. So now, and when I'm with other people, so then what happens? So then these different energies, they spread out. So what does that mean? So when we're all together, we're all in a room, so then we have all of these energies in the room, and so somebody's going to volunteer to take one of the energies, and so then, now when I see you, that you took the first energy, so then I can accept the fact that you took the first energy, and I say, hey, I take the other energy, okay? So now I'm not stuck with your energy, I take my energy, and I accept the fact that your energy is not going to be mine. So how am I going to accept that? So I'm going to say, I'm going to fight you because I disagree with you, because I think that you're wrong. And so I'm allowing you to take that. I'm going to fight against you by taking the contradictory opinion to that, right? So this is actually a very beautiful thing. This is the fact that we can have disagreements is actually saving our sanity. The fact that because if you wouldn't be able to have what you're saying, if you wouldn't be able to say what you're saying, that I would have to say what you're saying. Now this is something, it actually it circles back to what we're talking about Yom Ha'atzmaut, that in the Jewish world there's three opinions. There's three camps, so to speak.
Two Jews.
There you go. So there's the very Zionist, there's the anti-Zionist, and then there's the neutral. We're not anti-Zionist, but we're not Zionist. Okay, so Rav Shach from the Panovich Yeshiva, so he was the proponent of the neutral, interesting historical fact that before he came to Panovich, that Panovich was Zionist. That the Panovich Rav Rav Kahneman, he was Zionist, and they would he had an Israeli flag on Yom Ha'atzmaut, and then Rav Shach came and he was less Zionist because he was closer to the Chazon Ish, whatever. So, but he wasn't anti-Zionist. He wasn't like Satmar. He wasn't, and so he was part of he was into being part of the government and part of it wasn't like this is tamei. He didn't ever say you can't go to the kotel. He didn't have any of this anti-Zionist stuff, but he wasn't openly Zionist. So he said once an interesting thing, that he has appreciation to the Satmar Rav. He has appreciation to the anti-Zionist movement, because if the Satmar Rav wouldn't have said what he said, then he would have to. Okay? In other words, the Satmar Rav was anti-Zionist. What was he saying? He was saying that he's protesting the fact that it's a chilul Hashem, it's a desecration of Hashem, that we should have a Jewish state that doesn't believe in Hashem, a Jewish state that doesn't believe in Torah. That's most of everything. That was the biggest thing that bothered him. That he felt that to present to the world that what the Jewish people stand for is anything but Torah. To him, that was the most horrible thing, and better not to stand for anything than to stand for views that oppose Torah. Okay, so that was his problem, and there's truth to that. Rav Shach was saying that of course that's a good point. Of course, the Jews believe in Torah, and Jews should be promoting Torah, and Jews should identify with Torah. And when Jews are saying to the world, "Look at us," so they should say, "Look at us. We're the people who believe in the Torah." And to say, there's certainly truth to that. At the same time, there's also another side to the coin. Okay? There's also a lot to be said. We gave a class last year about all the things that we're celebrating on Yom Ha'atzmaut. The fact that we have the kibbutz galuyos, the fact that all of the exiles are coming together, the fact that we have autonomy, the fact that we have the freedom to make our own rules, and the fact that we have so much Torah. There are different things the different things that the Chok HaShvut, the fact that we're able to come back freely, the fact that we have a home. There's a lot.
Hashem delivered the enemies into our hands in the
War of Independence. That's certainly true. That's certainly true. But that's not what Yom Ha'atzmaut. That's not what Yom Ha'atzmaut is celebrating. If you ask somebody, what do you celebrate on Yom Ha'atzmaut? We're celebrating it's Independence Day. It's the day that we're celebrating that we have a state. Like the fact that we survived the war, that we won the war, that's amazing. But that's not what Yom Ha'atzmaut is all about. So the fact that there is and that also has nothing to do with the Zionist question. Like the fact that the state is a good thing, so that's something that Rav Shach saw the value to that as well. He also saw the other side, so he said, okay, we see that it's mixed. We see that there's a convolution over here, so we're going to stay in the middle. Okay, now I'm not saying that's not where I am. I'm very openly Zionist, but I'm saying that this is what he was saying, but yet he said that if Satmar Rav wouldn't have been anti-Zionist, then I would have needed to take that place, and that would be a shame, because this way I can do so much more as being part of Israeli society, and he felt bad that he would have felt bad that he wouldn't be able to do, but because the Satmar Rav was already making this protest, so he said, okay, the voice was expressed, so I'm exempt now. Okay, so this is what I think is really going on in a certain sense, that when you have, because there's all these different energies, because there's this complexity in the world, so everybody needs to take a flag, everybody needs to take a voice, take a microphone, and express what they're saying, and so the fact that you're saying it exempts me from saying it, so I can say something else. Okay, so this is something very beautiful, that the fact that we have to have disagreements, it's not about fighting, it's actually just about division of midos in the way that Rabbi Nachman is portraying this. And so the truth is that this connects to an idea that we mentioned before, and this is very deep. It's a very deep idea, and it's such a crucial idea, it's such a critical idea, in order to be able to have respect for one another. And that is the idea of Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. That it's the Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim is a Mishnah. It says that even though that halalu metarin, v'halalu metamim, even though that if you look at different opinions in the Torah, so these opinions say that it's pure, and these opinions say that it's impure, halalu oisrim, v'halalu matirin, that these opinions say that it's forbidden, and these opinions say that it's permitted, that nevertheless, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. Both these and these, both those that say that it's permitted and those that say that it's prohibited, are both the words of a living God. Okay, and so this is a very deep idea. Like, what could it possibly mean? What could it possibly mean that it's if you ask God, so you ask Hashem, like, can I eat this hechsher? And so he'll say, well, this rabbi says you could, this rabbi says you can't. He says, no, Hashem, no, I'm not asking the rabbi, I'm asking you. Hashem says, I don't know. This rabbi says that you could, and this rabbi says you can't. And that, it's absurd. What does it mean, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim? So what the commentaries explain is that the actual truth is actually complex. The true truth is something that cannot be codified in a simple word of yes or no. And this is precisely the idea that we shared on Sunday. And this is why emet, the word for truth, the word for truth is aleph mem taf, which is the beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay, what does it mean? The beginning, the middle, and the end is the first letter, and the middle letter, and the last letter. This is saying that the full truth requires a bird's eye perspective. That
22 letters.
I'm sorry, I have 22 letters. Yeah.
So you're saying how can it be middle?
It's one of the two middles. so the fact that MS is the beginning, the middle, of the end, which is the bird's eye view of reality, And if you're going to have a very myopic view, if you're going to have a very like one-way kind of truth, or one-tracked mind, so then you are by definition going to be far from emet. Like emet requires that you get the bird's eye view, that you have the whole picture, that you have the beginning, the middle, end of the discussion, that you get the right, left, center of any discussion, and that's that's the truth. The truth is that there's truth to a lot of things. Like, there's a story that somebody that there was a rabbi, that people came to deliberate in front of him. They had some dispute, and so his 7-year-old daughter was sitting next to him, and it didn't bother anybody. And so first one of the first guy came and said, he said, no, tell me the story. And so he listened to him, and he said, like, I heard the story, and he said, I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. And let me talk to your friend. And he says, and he's like, he tells him the story, and he says, I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. And so then his daughter said, Abba, I don't understand. You told the first guy that you think he's right, and you told the second guy you think he's right. They can't both be right. And he says, I hear what he's saying. I think you're right. So what's the lesson of the story? Like, a cousin of mine. So when he said the story, so he said that the lesson of the story is that whenever anybody says something to you, the first thing is say it right. He's also right, but I think the real lesson of the story is that the truth is actually multifaceted. That there is truth to each side of the story, and not only that, there's even truth to that voice that says, "But hold on a second, but it can't both be right." That's also true, and at the same time, they're also both right, because really life is really not black and white. Really, everything is gray. And when you focus on the white side of the gray, then you're right. When you focus on the black side of the gray, then you're also right. And when you say, okay, but you have to pick, that's also right. But it doesn't negate the fact that each one is individually right. And so this is the truth about the complexity of the world, is that because life is so complex, because the truth is so complex, because emet requires the whole picture. So therefore, if you're going to go through life with just my way or highway, so then you're by definition wrong. Then you started before you finished before you began. So this is if we go back to our question about unity and about how can we be one. So if the question about unity is that can we have homogeneity, that everyone is saying the same thing, so that's impossible. That's because it's just in our nature, certainly as Jews. And Rabbi Nachman says that even if it wouldn't be Jews, it's something which is built into the fabric of creation. It's even in Shamayim, that there's different energies going on even in heaven. So certainly down on earth there's going to be differences. So homogeneity is not in the question, but we still have two options besides that. That given that there's going to be different approaches, so then we have two approaches. We have the approach of Haman, Amalek, which is that Amaleki is politica, is that we're going to be divided and we're going to be fighting each other, and that is the Mephaizim Mefarad of Haman, and that is really what Amalek is all about. And the other is to appreciate the fact that there's truth in one another. Okay, meaning that when I appreciate, and only when I appreciate that there's truth to what the opposite view is saying, only then does my opinion actually matter. Because we said before that because actually life is complex. Actually, life is not black and white. So if I say that this is the way it is, and anybody who thinks otherwise is stupid. So what does that really mean? That means that I don't get it. Because there's actually truth to his side. Now, everything I'm saying was with a grain of salt. Of course, you could have a person that just is stupid or just is evil. That like Amalek. Amalek himself is something that needs to be destroyed. What is that? What is the energy of Amalek that needs to be destroyed? That is the divisiveness that needs to be utterly destroyed. Meaning that the one thing that there is no place in the world is only the lack of belief in unity. Okay, that's the destruction of Amalek means the destruction of the not believing that there could be another opinion. That is what makes machlekes, that is what makes milchamas, and that is the greatest enemy of reality. So there's once it's a given that there's going to be different energies in the world because of the different spheres, because of the fabric of creation. So then we have two approaches. We have the approach of Amalek, which is that my way or highway, which is this myopic that there is only one way, which is simply wrong. And then there's another approach. And the other approach is that I appreciate the fact that you're different than me. I appreciate the fact that there's truth to what you're saying as well. And despite the fact that there's truth to what you're saying, I still believe in what I'm saying. I still believe that from my perspective that the pros outweigh the cons, or vice versa, and therefore we actually disagree. And yet I understand that that's only because of my perspective. You're not stupid, you're not crazy, you're not evil, you just see things differently, and because life is actually gray, so then I respect that. Okay? And this is the only way that you can ever have peace with somebody. You can't have peace with somebody that you think is stupid. You can't have peace with somebody that you think is evil. So the only way to ever have peace is only if there's ever going to be a self appreciation, a mutual respect. This is there was a Rav in Tekoa. What was it, Rav Menachem Froman, that he believed that the only way to truly make peace with the Arabs is only to make peace with the religious leaders. Like, it needs to come from the top. That once there can be peace between the religions, then there can be peace between the nations. And because he understood that it's correct, that it's a religious war. It's from their side, it's a religious war. So unless they stop saying that according to our religion we need to kill you, so then they're going to keep on killing us. So the only way to fight Amalek is to have mutual respect. Of course, this is like if it follows from what I'm saying, that when you can't have that, if you have a nation that's saying no, there is no room for diplomacy, there is no room for mutual respect, that's Amalek. That is Amalek. So this is what I always say, that a person that can't explain, a person that can't see the value in the opposing side, so his or her opinion is actually worthless because they just don't get it, because they don't get the complexity of the discussion. And secondly, once I respect the fact that there is room to say otherwise, and yet I still hold firmly in my opinion, so that is the way that we can live in coexistence, right? So this is what Rabbi Nachman is talking about. This is what Rabbi Nachman is explaining is the way that machlekes comes from. Where does machlekes actually come from? Machlekes actually comes from energies in the world that were supposed to be here, that were meant to be here, and that's why we cannot have any expectation that wherever go, they're always going to agree. It's really built into the fabric of the universe that they're going to disagreement. But we do have a choice as to how we're going to deal with it, and there is the Amalek way of dealing with it, which is that. Jihad, and then there is the Torah way of looking at it, and that is Oseh Shalom B'Mamav, which is a place of appreciation of the fact that there's beauty in what you're saying as well, even though I disagree, even though I firmly disagree, and I would rather die than be like you're doing, but that's me. But I appreciate the fact that that's me. I appreciate the fact that you have your set of eyes, you have your perspectives, you have your way of looking at things, and there is truth, there is value to what you're saying. Like it could be a bad judgment, but you're not saying something which is completely fabricated. And from that place of respect, so that is the thing that B'ezrat Hashem will bring us peace and Geula and Mashiach. B'ezrat Hashem.